now available in paperback and e-readers. Spellbound, A Darker Shade of Black. Get your copy today at your favorite online bookseller. One of my viewers wanted me to talk about how biracial black men and black women are used as a substitute for actual black men and black women. Now, in institutions like business, politics, and the mainstream media, oftentimes they will go out and bring in biracial black people to be a representation of actual black people in their business institutions and in positions of political power. And examples of this are former President Barack Obama, Vice President Kamala Harris, actress Halle Berry, and actresses like Vanity, Sally Richardson, and Lisa Bonet, and even actors like Shamar Moore. All of these individuals are not 100% black. No, they are all biracial black people, and as they are all biracial black people, they are presented as representations of actual black people. Now, what the mainstream media loves to do is use biracial black people as a representation of actual blackness, because what they want to do is dilute the image of blackness so that they can, one, present their ideal of black to the black masses, and two, be able to control the black masses by having them follow the lead of a biracial black person instead of following behind the image of an actual black person. Now, this is something not done by the biracial black performers themselves. No, this is something done by the institutions of white supremacy, and again, has been done ever since the days of slavery, when they created the whole division concept of the house slave and the field slave. Now, the house slave was an individual who usually was biracial and was usually conceived by the white slave master and his sexual relations with the slaves, and these children who were biracial basically were given positions in the slave master's home because they were part his children, and to also create a division between the slaves where he could create a smooth world where he could feel comfortable about dealing with this substitute black individual instead of having to deal directly with an actual black person. Now, what the slave master would do is give power to these house slaves, and these house slaves would be given autonomy by the slave master, and this autonomy given to them by the slave master basically made it where they were being presented as a representative of black people to most of the field slaves, and they were basically elevated to that position in a covert contract that was created by the field slaves. And as they created this covert contract, they started to believe these individuals were the substitute individuals who would represent them, not understanding that the white supremacists basically saw them all as black and basically saw them all as less than. And what the white supremacist has been doing ever since slavery has ended is what they do is continue to maintain this house slave, field slave narrative by going out and looking to elevate biracial black individuals into positions where they say they are representing black. Now, the white supremacist does this to passively make it look like they are about promoting a black person as representing black, but aggressively what they are looking to do is control the narrative regarding foundational black Americans by elevating this biracial person in a position as a representation of black, and then using this individual, and I dare to say weaponizing this individual by having them parrot the narratives to the black masses that they want presented, instead of listening to an actual black person who will present actual concerns of foundational black Americans. So what they would do is use these biracial individuals as buffers and use the biracial individual to be the buffer between the white people who control these institutions these days, such as politics, economics, and business, and use these individuals to be able to control the discourse in passively saying, oh, we've got this biracial person and who is the first black person in a position of power, but aggressively, this person is not about representing any sort of black interests or looking to empower any other black people. That's the whole reason why they substitute the biracial individual into the position that a black person is supposed to have, is because they want to continue maintaining white power. And how they maintain white power is by putting a substitute individual in that position of power to represent as black. And sadly, because many black people are spellbound, what they do is get mesmerized by the person's lighter skin or straighter hair. And as they get mesmerized by that lighter skin and straighter hair, what they do is look to take what this person says as a truth and not see how they are actually being undermined by the white supremacists who are the puppet masters who have their hand up this person's back. What most people do is they become mesmerized by this person and become pacified by their words. That is what happened in 2008 from 2016 with Barack Obama, our so-called first black president, who basically was biracial, and he basically was a chocolate-covered white man, because what they did was make him black on the outside, but most black people didn't look at the core values of him on the inside, because his first teacher was a white woman, and he was raised primarily by white people, but he was black on the outside, but his values were the same as the white supremacists on the inside. But most black people took him as a representation of black, not understanding how the white supremacists behind the scenes used him as a substitute. And this is something that has been done for years and done regularly, because what Hollywood also likes to do, because they don't like to give jobs to black actresses, what they do is in many cases find a biracial actress, put her in a role as a black character, and use her to be a representation of blackness. And this basically mesmerizes the black males into believing she's the hot ideal and the ideal of black beauty, and has a lot of black girls basically starting to feel insecure about their own black beauty as related to themselves, and gets everybody in the black community caught up in all sorts of arguments and division as related to things. This is how we get the whole light skin, dark skin narratives and the back and forth regarding light skin and dark skin, because many of us, we buy into ideals about these substitute images that they put up in front of us. And as we get caught up in these ideas about somebody being a substitute, what this does is create the narrative for black people where we're not in control of our stories, not seeing how the white supremacist again wants to keep us distracted, because they don't want to see a foundational black American representing our interest or our ideals, because if we are representing our interest and our ideals, This is something that means that the white supremacist has to hear black people, and many of the people who control these institutions, like media, business, and politics, have to actually listen to real black people, but they don't want to listen to black people. So what they want to do is control the discourse and control the narrative regarding black people, and they want to use these individuals to be the kind of puppets that they can go out here and spellbind the masses. And as they spellbind the masses, what we have are people looking to follow in the footsteps of a ragdoll dance, entranced, looking to fit into these black boxes that are acceptable to white people, and looking to fit into the ideals of white people instead of standing up and creating their own standards and creating their own culture. That is what the white supremacist does with the substitutes for black, because they don't want to talk to actual black people. No, they don't want to talk to foundational black Americans like myself. They don't want to deal with actual foundational black Americans presenting their talking points and their viewpoints. So what they do is create these buffers to represent their ideals of blackness, and as they represent their ideals of blackness, they can get the talking points that they want heard parroted back to them. Now, as they have gone from dealing with biracial individuals as their representation, the white supremacist has seen that many people see through this, because with Barack Obama, people started to see through this, and now they have adapted things. And as they have adapted things, what we're seeing now is a lot of the same individuals recruiting foreign-born blacks into these positions of power. And what they want to do again is the exact same thing that they did with the biracial individual. What they want to do with the foreign-born black is take advantage of their lack of understanding about the culture of America, take advantage of their lack of understanding about the racism of America, because these individuals see themselves as individuals and don't see themselves as being part of black people in America. They see themselves as being outside of America, and what the white supremacist wants to do is use that individual as a buffer, and again, a second buffer in addition to the biracial buffer, have them representing as black, and as they have them represent as black, again, not having to listen to a foundational black American tell them the truth about the racism that goes on in America, tell them the truth about being black, or tell them the truth about black life. No, they can get their ideas parroted back to them and have their smooth world where they don't have to deal with actual black people and have the stereotypes that they believe about black people presented to them. That is the reason why they want to deal with the biracial black person or the foreign-born black person, because dealing with those individuals and having them substitute for black people in power allows them to be able to have their smooth world and allows them to maintain their power over black communities, because what these buffers will do is use their position to go out here and spellbind the masses, similar to what the black pastor does in making some glib speech or telling them what they want to hear. And because many foundational black Americans become spellbound by their crystal blue or green eyes, or their creamy white or light skin, or their straight hair, they take what they say as the truth as they remain in a codependent state. And as they remain in a codependent state, many black people stay in the same position in life that they were before, because in order for there to be change, you have to come out of what you knew. But if you're mesmerized by a spell as related to skin color, what happens is you just keep getting tricked by these people with the creamy white skin and the crystal blue eyes in believing because they are close to whiteness, you can trust them. But in actuality, you can't really trust them because they have been placed to be a representation of you. But the whole thing is, they are not representing your interests, and they are not looking to represent your ideals. And that's where a lot of people get it twisted as related to their core values. They don't understand that the person, if they're not representing your values, then they're not representing you. That's where a lot of black people get it twisted as related to foreign-born blacks or biracials. They think, oh, this person has been put in a position of power, but they've been put in a position of power to substitute for you. And as they substitute for you, they are not acting in your interest. No, they are acting in their interest. And they will go out here and say they are anything but black. And that's the whole trick as related to things, as related to having them up in black media, like the old Ebony magazines and Essence magazines. They would have a lot of these biracial and foreign-born blacks as representations of blackness, and they would use them to be able to promote the messages that they want. And they know that because people are spellbound, what they will do is look to follow in the footsteps in that ragdoll dance, entranced, thinking, oh, this will get me white acceptance, when in actuality what the white supremacist is doing is using this individual to be able to get the kind of images and ideals and as related to making his smooth world real. For example, with Halle Berry, again, biracial black woman, what white supremacy did was have her in Monsters Ball, and as she starred in Monsters Ball, they used this degrading image of black womanhood to take black women on a road to debauchery, because as she mainstreamed the degrading and debaucherous behavior she participated in with Billy Bob Thornton, many black women followed her and followed her ideal and believed that this was the standard for black female behavior. And with Barack Obama, again, another biracial black person, he mesmerized a lot of black people into thinking, oh, this first black president would bring hope and change. But if you looked at his background, you saw that this individual was never about hope and change, because his values and ideals were all about promoting the same leftist white supremacy that has always been a part of things. Again, these substitutes are all about getting power and control over the black masses, and getting power and control over the black masses to influence their thinking, because a lot of people are still caught up in the house slave, field slave narratives, and as they're caught up in the narratives of house slave and field slave, they are looking to gain acceptance into the house of white supremacy, not understanding that this is all about taking away your power and keeping you from being empowered as a black person. That's what the substitution of biracials into positions of black power is all about. It's about finding a way to take your power, and take your power by influencing you by light, by believing light skin is better than dark skin, when in actuality what the white supremacist wants to do is use these individuals to promote anti-black narratives and use them to keep black people oppressed by creating these hierarchies where you're thinking this person is better, when in actuality, if you believe in the whole concept of content of character over color of skin, you look at actions over words. And if you want to look at a person who is light-skinned, like Malcolm X, I mean, Malcolm X cared about black people, looked out for black people, and did not use his light-skin powers, as I call it, for evil. No, he was looking to empower black people, and it wasn't about skin tone. No, for Malcolm X, he was a black man, and he was a representation of blackness, and he wasn't looking to be a substitute for being black. No, he was proud of his blackness. So you have to understand, when it comes to black people, we have to understand that the white supremacist wants to weaponize a biracial individual, but there are brothers and sisters out here who are biracial, who are on code, And a lot of those brothers and sisters, they don't get talked about because what the mainstream media does is want to push a narrative to, again, make them disappear because they don't fit their narrative, and wants to make them disappear because they are not representing their ideals of black. And this is where we have to understand what I talk about in my novel Spellbound. It's all about trying to create their definition of black and get you to fit into their definition of black. And part of it is using a biracial person as a tool to represent their ideas, because it's all about controlling black people and using these buffers to control the black masses. And that's why they will substitute a biracial person into the position of a black person. Now, if you want to learn more about how white supremacy manipulates black people, you can pick up my novel Spellbound on Amazon.com. And in that book, I talk about the whole concept of being spellbound and trying to fit into the black box that's acceptable to white people. And you can get that book in paperback and Kindle format, and you can also find it at other online booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, Google Play, and Barnes & Noble. And if you want to request a video like this viewer, you can send a donation of a minimum of $15 to the Cash App or the PayPal. And if I know something about that subject, I will make that video for you. That's all I have to say for this first video of the year. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, the Beauty Myth. Learn the beauty secrets of the goddess next door in this action-packed Isis series adventure. Get Isis, the Beauty Myth at online booksellers everywhere today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, My Sister, My Frenemy. It's a sister act as the goddess next door and the devilish diva team up in this action-packed Isis series adventure. Get Isis, My Sister, My Frenemy in paperback and e-readers everywhere. Support black-owned and black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.